Welcome to this episode of the First Attendance podcast. Today we are talking fire alarms. We've got Steve Hopkins with us. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today. Steve, am I allowed to call you a fire alarm expert? Can we go with that?
We can go with that. Yeah, why not?
Why not? Right. So the aim of this conversation today is to make sure that if a customer out there is looking for a fire alarm system, they've taken over a building, we want to make sure that we can give them all the correct information so they get the best product for what they're looking for, and basically they're not employing cowboys to do it, because there's plenty of them out there that you've There's a few. So we want to make sure. So Steve, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do and what company you work for and how long you've been doing it and stuff?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry since I left school, basically. I took an apprenticeship and as an alarm engineer, and I've worked my way up through the ranks. Got heavily involved in fire with previous company, helped them achieve BAFE accreditation. And then I've been with Red Technical for just shy of 8 years now, helping Joe and Gary. I've worked with Joe and Gary, the owners of the business, at a previous company. We had a good friendship, good relationship, and so I joined Red Technical shortly after it was born.
So are you still out on the tools, or are you doing...
It's a mixture, yeah. We're all still out on the tools, so we all still, we are a company of engineers, so we keep our hand in, we help out where we're needed to.
Awesome. Right. So if I'm a customer today, as I say, on our previous podcasts, what we've tried to do is build up a little bit of a picture for a customer that if they have to go out and purchase a product or a service, we did risk assessments in one of our other episodes. We want to help them get the right product.
Yeah.
So if I'm a customer out there and I'm typing into Google fire alarm system, at what stage do I need? Let's go from the very beginning. So I've got a shop or something like that. Do I need a fire alarm? What are the legal requirements to have fire alarm systems and things in place? When does it actually kick in that you've got to go out and purchase one of these?
So there is a legal requirement for all business premises to have a fire alarm to a certain degree. Whether or not that is a fire detection system really depends on your circumstances. So if you're a very small open area shop, you can see all areas of the shop, you employ yourself and maybe one other, and you can evacuate that building quite easily by shouting fire, then that is deemed acceptable. However, if you employ vulnerable people, or you've got a bigger office and you've got areas that you can't see and a fire could start, then there is a legal obligation to then have a fire detection system fitted.
Awesome. Excellent. So if I type into Google, there's going to be 1,000 different companies here.
There certainly is.
Yeah. What should I be looking for as a customer at that point? Is there certain accreditations? Is there certain qualifications I should be asking for?
Ideally, yes. We are BAFE registered. So that is a third-party inspection body run through the NSI who look at our work and ensure that we're doing it to the British standards. It does tie in nicely with probably the previous podcast you've done of the fire risk assessor, and your fire risk assessor is going to help you helpfully decide what type of fire alarm you need and what company you should be employing.
So is there any specific, with the governing bodies and stuff out there, is there any certain specific British standards that they should be covering within that accreditation or anything like that?
So BS 5839 Part 1 is for commercial buildings or non-dwellings,
right? Okay,
as it's classed.
And should be looking for an alarm company that can service or maintain or to supply to that standard.
Correct. Yes.
Right. Awesome. So with the accreditations and stuff, do they actually come out and assess you guys to what you do and what level you work at?
So we've had 2 inspections from the NSI for our BAFE accreditation.
So NSI is
National Security Inspectorate.
Right. Okay.
So they accredit us for intruder alarms and security systems as well. BAFE then is the fire alarm. Awesome. So they come out twice a year and assess us, and that assessment includes going out to site, looking at our design work, looking at the files that we keep, and also looking at how the system's been installed and how it's maintained going forward.
Right. Okay. So now I've got 2 or 3 alarm companies, and I've had a conversation with both or 3 of them. They all seem really nice guys. What are there different types of alarm setups that companies can put in place with the amount of like detectors and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so there's 2 main types of fire alarm system. You can have a conventional fire alarm system or an addressable fire alarm system. Conventional is ideal for small premises. It's easier to install. It's cheaper to install, but there are limitations to it. So if you have a large premises, you can only identify the area by the zone.
Right.
That zone could be up to 2,000 square meters, or it could be several offices or a large warehouse consisting of up to 20 detectors. So you're not exactly sure where in that zone the fire is. For bigger sites, then you would move on to an addressable system where each head is recognised individually by the panel, and it can actually pinpoint where the fire is down to the individual smoke detector.
Right. Okay. So I've heard in the past about like L1, L2, L3. Is that when that sort of stuff all kicks in?
That's the fire categories that belong to the British Standard 5839.
Right.
So within that, there are what we call life protection categories, which are the ones that begin with an L, and there are property protection ones which begin with P.
Right, okay.
So we've got 2 property protections.
Now, would that be raised at the risk assessment level, or is that something you guys then go in and assess?
So in a perfect world, the fire risk assessment will be done, and the fire risk assessor will have said, you need this category fire alarm system.
Right.
So then you can go out to your preferred companies and say, I want an L3 fire alarm system, for example, and all 3 of those companies should come back with the same design.
Right, okay. So with what's the main difference between an L1, L2, L3? Is it just more detector heads? Is it more?
Yes, it's more detector heads and more protection.
Right, okay.
So in terms of life protection, which is the L categories, there's 5 categories in there. L5 is a specialist design system and is used for new tower blocks and stuff where there's a stay put system in place. So it allows an engineered solution to a problem. L4 is where the standard fire alarm categories take place, and L4 covers all of the communal escape routes from a building.
Right.
So that will be corridors and open plan areas where you use to escape from the building. L3 builds upon L4 and covers rooms that then lead on to that escape routes. You're covering more detectors are going in. L2 further enhances L3 by saying all of the rooms covered under L3 plus any other areas we've identified as a high risk. And it's important that L2, the high risk areas are specified. So you might have plant rooms or server rooms, electrical cupboards where there's an extra high risk where you need to cover extra protection. And then L1 is the top grade, and that's where you would cover smoke detection everywhere.
Right, okay.
So normally reserved for hotels and public spaces.
Yeah, because a big thing for you guys, I suppose, is as companies adapt and maybe bring in server rooms and stuff that weren't originally there on the plans, that they get in touch with you guys as their alarm company.
Yes.
So then you can just go and reassess.
Yeah, so we need to know
any adaptations to
buildings, and that is part of the maintenance regime. Our engineer will say there's a new building been added, or a new cupboard, or a new room has been added, and then they'll be highlighting to the customer that you should now have detection added to that to maintain.
Awesome. Now, there are lots of different manufacturers and stuff out there. I hear
there are.
Is there, from a customer's point of view, is there anything we should be looking for, or are the different manufacturers easy for you guys to maintain because you get trained on the certain alarm panels and stuff?
So there are many manufacturers out there that produce smoke detectors. There are many manufacturers out there that produce fire panels, and there are some manufacturers that produce both. The most important thing I would say from a customer point of view is to be aware of the system they're buying, is whether it's an open or a closed protocol system.
Right.
So a closed protocol system is generally locked to a manufacturer and then can only be serviced and maintained by that manufacturer or their servicing agents. So you're a bit tied down when it comes to, if you fall out with the incumbent company or the manufacturer indeed, you're a bit stuck with them.
Right, because they're all their bits fit for their product.
Correct.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
So the most famous ones in the market used to be Protec and Gent. Gent have loosened up slightly, and now they have preferred servicing agents. But as I say, if you have a system installed by them, you're stuck with using their companies of choice.
Right, okay.
An open protocol system is open to the general market, and in theory, any fire alarm company can come along and service and maintain that.
Right, okay. So from a customer's point of view, I don't really need to know. You'd give me the best advice when it comes to what systems we should be purchasing.
Yeah, we always quote open protocol systems.
Right, okay. Yeah, awesome. So with the alarm, if you were then to come in and fit an alarm, you'd do everything from the heads, the call points, the alarm panel. You'd fit everything.
That's correct. So from your risk assessment, they've hopefully identified what category of fire alarm you should be fitting. We would then start the design work, put a proposal together with a design, and then we would install to that design, commission the system off.
I suppose the issues you have is when you're in like places of heritage and all that sort of stuff, and
there's
drilling holes and running cables through places that they don't really want to.
Graded buildings are always slightly more awkward. But there are some very good, effective wireless fire alarm systems on the market now, which help us get over issues like that.
Yeah, awesome. So once the alarm system's in place, what sort of maintenance and stuff has the customer actually got put into place? How often have you guys got to come back to do? Is it like an annual service? What's the process?
Yeah, so under BS 5839, and in order to maintain your certification, the system has to be under a maintenance contract. Now, that can be with any fire alarm company that's confident to do it.
Yeah.
And the general rule is all detection must be tested once within the year, but the panel must be tested every 6 months.
Right, okay.
So depending on the size of the system, we would either break down the system into 2 visits per year, or sometimes bigger system, we do 4 visits per year, and we do 25% of the detection on each visit.
Right, okay. So what do you have to actually do at that point then? Is that when I see people go around with the big stick and
that's it. So we've got the test poles that help us reach smoke detectors that are higher up. We would test the smoke detector, and that has to respond within a predetermined time in order to trigger at the panel. We would test the call points, and then we would do a mixture of zones. We wouldn't do just like one corner of a building and say that works. We would do a mixture of 25% across the building. Or a mixture of 50% across the building. And then 6 months' time, we would do the other 50%.
And the customer themselves got to do a weekly fire alarm test?
It's recommended that the customer carries out a weekly test, and that we recommend they do a call point each week and a different one. A lot of customers label up their call points A to F or 1 to 6, and then they'll go around and test it, put it in the logbook that they've tested. This week they've tested point 1, and next week they'll be testing point 2.
Where do customers stand legally if they don't do these checks? Because we do a lot of fire training. I go into lots of different businesses. You asked to look at the fire logbook for the training records more than anything, and you can see basically that they've just date and time. They must have just sat at a desk and date and timed while they were there a few times and not actually done it.
I think that would be a question for the courts if it gets that far. Yeah.
What as I say, it does. Unfortunately, it happens, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
And for you guys, you actually just sign them up to that maintenance process, then, and you just phone them up and say, "Look, your alarm test is your alarm is due its quarterly check or whatever it might be."
So they'll be signed up to a maintenance contract. We would offer that at the end of the installation, and then in 6 months' time, we would then email them from our system, say, "You're due your 6 monthly check now. When can we book an engineer in?" Yeah,
awesome. Now, change of actual detector heads and that sort of stuff. How often should a detector head be changed?
So
because there are companies out there, because we're in the fire extinguisher game.
Of course.
Lots of people change stuff because they're on sales contracts and all this sort of stuff. And what is the actual recommendation for the change on the head so that the customer doesn't get?
So most manufacturers will give a working life of 10 years to a smoke detector. But that's not to say that 10 years and one day it will stop working. It can still be maintained. It would then just become a recommendation on the maintenance that your detectors are becoming old and they should be changed.
Right, okay. Awesome. And what about heat detectors compared to smoke detectors and stuff like that? When would you change a smoke to a heat?
So heat detectors are used in areas where a smoke detector would cause issues. So dusty environments or areas where we're not expecting a smouldering fire. So it could be where we're expecting a flame more predominantly to occur. And so there's going to be a rapid rise in temperature, and we would use heat detectors in that sort of scenario.
And would that be flagged up more in the risk assessment, or would that be something you guys would?
So that would be incorporated into the design as we design the system. We would recognise areas that needed smoke and heat.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, when you've been going around doing stuff, is there anything that you've picked up that you think customers don't realise that they've got to have in place? Is there anything a common fault that you come across where customers maybe think, actually, I can get away with not doing this, but really they can't?
I think generally with fire alarms, once it's in and it's maintained, I think probably the thing that they miss most is their weekly checks.
Right.
Or, as I say, flagging up when they've changed. So they'll do some internal modifications to offices, put up some partitions, and forget that the fire alarm needs to be modified to go along with it. It's very easy to remember to put lights in the office because you can't see. It's not so easy to remember a smoke detector.
If say we were to put a room in here now, if I wasn't putting a server room in it or anything like that, or there wasn't any high risk in there, would I still need to put a detector in there?
It's all based on your fire category and maintaining that fire category. So if you build if you've got an L3 system, for instance, and you build another room that leads onto the escape route, it's going to need protection. If you build a room within a room, that wouldn't need a smoke detector.
Right, okay. It's such a grey area now. I know there's loads, because you're in the same game as I am, and you've got lots of competitors like I am, and everything the customer is looking for is normally price.
Yes.
And half the time it's not the price that should be the first concern.
Correct. Yeah. You've got to maintain your certification or it becomes non-compliant.
Yeah.
And so if it then falls down to the grade below, and that's when insurance companies may get involved and say, you're not insured now because you're not at the grade.
So will certain insurance companies ask for certain accreditations up to a certain standard? Is there different within the BAFE itself? Is there different levels of BAFE accreditation?
No, you're either a BAFE approved company or you're not. Yeah.
No worries. Now, with the alarm systems as well, is there anything else that can be incorporated into the alarm system? So if you've got, say, gas shut-offs and all that sort of stuff, can that also be fed into the alarm system?
Yeah, so there's all sorts of ancillary devices that we can add relays into control. We can have gas valves, BMS systems, auto door closers, systems? Building management systems,
right?
HVAC systems, which will shut down air conditioning. We can put sensors inside the air conditioning ducts so we can monitor for smoke being withdrawn out of buildings.
Right, okay.
And stuff like that. Fire doors, we can get them to shut automatically upon activation.
With over the last, say, 10 years or so, have you seen a massive change in the technology linked to the fire systems and all that sort of stuff that you're seeing with all this new AI and conversation and all that sort of stuff? Is there loads of things coming into the market that you think, wow, that's going to make a massive difference?
There's a few things coming in, but I wouldn't have said the fire alarm industry moves along in leaps and bounds like other industries. So it's much like your fire extinguishers and the advent of the P50s, which... people thought was going to
change
wipe
the world.
out, wipe out at normal extinguishers. But there's a few bits that come in and out, which you can see. Integration with other systems is nice. One of the manufacturers we deal with also has a range of intercom systems. So when you're doing a block of flat, we can integrate the fire alarm to the intercom system, so we can send evacuation messages to the video phone that's in the flats. Okay. So very useful for a stay put system, which is becoming a bit more of the norm now. If the fire alarm goes off, we can send a signal around to all the intercom flats to say, stay put, evacuation in process, fire brigade to update. So they just get a little bit of information fed to them.
With alarms and stuff, I was in a nursing home the other day, and it was a voice rather than a howler saying this is an alarm and all that sort of stuff. When does that? Is there any legal requirement that you've got to have a howler, you've got to have voice or anything like that, or is it down to?
No, it's down to the customer's requirements and the design that's put in place. Nursing homes obviously have very vulnerable people, especially on dementia wards and stuff like that. So they don't like the sudden shock of loud sirens going off. So a lot of care homes will have the sirens taken out of the bedrooms.
Right, okay.
And they'll just have notifications to the nurses there, and they can evacuate in their process.
Right, okay. And one other thing I'm going to ask you about, the delayed system. So you've got the two-phase systems and things like that.
Yep.
Would that be something that you do you work out on your plans? Is that down to the type of customer? How does all that get? Because if you've got a customer, say with a tower block or something like that, or some separate buildings, would it be down to the fire risk assessor to work out if they want a two-phase system, or would that be something you guys?
Yeah, so there's normally a fire risk assessment done, and then a fire strategy plan is produced, especially for new builds. So most of the specifications we're seeing come through now, there is an engineered fire strategy that comes with it. Right. And that will document if it's going to be a phased evacuation, if it's going to be an all out, one out type of evacuation, or indeed now as becoming popular is the evacuation systems are being fitted to run alongside the fire alarm.
So explain that.
So an evacuation system is not a fire alarm.
Right.
It works in conjunction with the fire alarm, and it is a panel of key switches that allows the fire brigade to control the evacuation of a building.
Right, okay.
So the fire alarm will not have any sounders connected to it. The fire alarm, this goes into an L5 design, so it's an engineered solution. And so the fire alarm will pick up the detection. It will alert the panel, which will alert the building management team or call the fire brigade automatically. The fire brigade will then come to site, and there's another panel which only they have a key to, and behind that panel is a set of key switches that allows them to evacuate a building floor by floor if they want.
Right, okay. So what, they literally just flick a switch and the alarm...
They flick a switch, and however the building's zoned up, and you could have one zone per floor, or you could have multiple zones per floor. That zone will go, and those people evacuate.
Wow.
So they can bring a building down from the top floor downwards, so not everyone's in the stairwell at the same time.
Awesome. I didn't know that. Oh, fair play.
The new systems, it's going to be following the Grenfell disaster.
Yeah, so have you seen lots since Grenfell? Have you, like, there was a big thing about fire doors since Grenfell and the
there are changes coming through. I wouldn't have said it's revolutionised the fire industry yet. I think there's still a lot of fallout to come from who's getting the blame.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to go far and wide, unfortunately. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Right, so in summary then, if a customer is looking for a fire alarm, you can jump on Google to start with, or a search engine of your choice.
Yep.
Key things they should be looking for?
Local reputable company with BAFE accreditation or another third-party accreditation.
Yeah.
It's useful to have a company that's got all the modules, so design, install, commissioning and maintenance.
Yeah.
But there are some companies that will specialise in just the design. Some will specialise just in the maintenance.
Yeah.
And get the backing of the fire risk assessor and the insurance company and make sure all parties involved are happy.
I think the bit about the insurance company is what a lot of people forget. That if you haven't got the right systems in place, they're going to find a way not to pay out.
They will, yeah. That's with all insurance companies. They'll avoid paying if they can.
Yeah. So get a couple of quotes, check their accreditations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything from training-wise that you guys have to go through that certificate-wise that a customer can look at to make sure that the guy actually coming in to do it? Yes, the accreditation company should have done it, but what sort of qualifications do you guys go through to actually become an engineer?
We have to go through quite a bit. There's quite a few training modules on the FIA, which is the Fire Industry Association. There's quite a few modules to go through, and depending on what the purpose of the person within the company will depend on what their modules.
Right, okay.
So more or less everyone does what they call their foundation module, and then engineers will go off and specialise in a commissioning module, an installation module, a servicing module. The designers, which is myself and Gary at Red Technical, we've got design and advanced design modules, and so they're kept up to date. So when new legislation comes out or anything gets updated, we sit a course to update our records. And yes, that's all checked by BAFE when they come out to assess us.
Now, without naming any names or slandering everybody, there are a few companies out there that don't do things as they should do. Is there any big red flags that a customer can look for when they're trying to get an alarm system done? Paying cash is normally a big one.
Paying cash is normally one. Yeah, I mean, I would just say, if the risk assessor has come in and done the job and he's given a category, then all your quotes should be coming in the same sort of price. We should all be designing to L3.
Right,
so in theory, we should all be designing exactly the same detector count.
So if someone's a lot cheaper, then they're probably the value.
If someone's a lot cheaper or a lot more expensive, then that would be red flags.
Right, okay. Awesome. If people in the Bristol area or Southwest area are looking for a fire alarm system or anything like that, how do they get in touch with you guys at Red Technical? Your wares?
They can check out our website at www.redtechnical.com. There is a contact form on there.
Awesome.
And they can get in touch with us that way.
And you go nationally, or is it?
We do cover nationally, yep. So we do a lot of work across the south of the UK, but yes, we do cover nationally for some of our key clients.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what size premises or what size type business they got, you'll cater for everybody?
Yeah, we can cater for everyone, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming in. Is there anything that I've missed that you think a customer should know? Is there any questions, or is there anything you would like to discuss or say, or do you think we kind of covered everything?
No, I think we've done a really good job there of covering
Awesome.
what to expect.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming in. As I say, the main aim of these videos and these podcasts is it's so cloudy out there, and there's a lot of companies out there trying to confuse customers and get them to spend money that they don't really need to spend.
Correct. As you say, the fire industry is quite of a grey area, full stop.
Yeah.
In terms of extinguishers and fire alarms and fire risk assessors, but eventually it comes back to the responsible person on site.
Yeah.
And so if they've got to be happy that they've done their due diligence.
And at the end of the day, it's one of those things, you can talk about ending up in a court of law and all that sort of stuff and prison sentences. The worst thing is death, that somebody can actually die in a fire if it's not been done properly.
Correct, yeah. As we've seen with these news stories.
Yeah. So, right. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate you coming in today. Check out Red Technical for all your fire alarm systems and things. Thank you very much. Awesome. Cheers, buddy.
Thank you very much.